Stephen arrived at the Cassidy group to pick up Kim, only to find her carrying heavy bags for Harry, which left him visibly displeased as he questioned why she was doing such tasks.
Her heart fluttered when she realized that Stephen was angry for her sake. "It's fine, just let him be arrogant. I'll become the successor next Tuesday anyway. He won't be able to do what he wants for long." Harry crossed his arms. "Next Tuesday? Don't be so full of yourself. You're in such a good mood even though no one knows who's going to win." Helen detested outsiders who desired the power and influence of the Cassidy family. Stephen was Kim's weakness. Rebecca covered her mouth to stifle her laughter, but her eyes were filled with mockery. "Harry, did you know? Next Tuesday is February 12th. It's their anniversary. It's a given that Kim's in a good mood." Harry responded loudly so that everyone in the lobby could hear their conversation. "Oh, please. What anniversary are you talking about? It's more like a day of shame for them. When they married 3 years ago, they made the Cassidy family the joke of the entire city." "I know. Whenever it's February 12th, I'm always scared of going out and being mocked by other people. Where did she even find a husband like him? He only freeloads off of her family. How embarrassing." The other members of the Cassidy family in the lobby whispered amongst themselves. They agreed with Harry and Rebecca that Kim and Stephen's marriage had nothing good for their family. When Rebecca brought up their wedding anniversary, Kim lowered her head and bit her lip. 3 years ago, on February 12th, she and Stephen had received their marriage certificate, but they didn't have a wedding ceremony. Kim remembered the way she locked herself in her room and cried from evening all the way until dawn. She couldn't understand why her grandfather, whom she was very close to, had written in his will that he wanted her to marry Stephen. Their sudden marriage had ruined her life and made the Cassidy family the laughingstock of the city. Stephen's heart clenched when he saw Kim's helpless expression. For the past 3 years, he'd endured his reputation as a good-for-nothing husband. Even though everyone from the family hated him and looked at him like he was a piece of trash that anyone could step on, he swallowed his pride and never refuted their criticisms. However, Kim had suffered even more, and it was because of him. Stephen had been quiet all this time, but he suddenly spoke up as he scanned the crowd. "In the future, February 12th will be regarded as a day of celebration. When that time comes, all of you will be jealous of Kim." Everyone looked at Stephen like he was crazy. After a brief silence, they burst into laughter. Stephen ignored them and looked at Kim. "I know you had a hard time because of my sudden appearance 3 years ago, but starting today, I'll make it up to you. Kim, as long as you want it, I can give you the world." Rebecca laughed so hard that she almost teared up. "You want to make it up to Kim? How are you planning on doing that when you can barely afford a meal?" Harry shook his head in disapproval. "You want to give Kim the world? Are you filming some kind of movie? What an idiot." Kim gave Stephen a long look. They'd been married for 3 years, but he was always submissive. She didn't expect him to tell her that he would make it up to her and give her the world in front of so many people. "Stephen, I'll be happy as long as it's from you," Kim said with a smile. She didn't have any expectations, but she hoped he would be more confident and stand up for himself. Someone shouted from the crowd. "What can he even do for her? He's only saying empty words. I heard the moon in the Nile is being auctioned right now. If you really want to give Kim the world, then buy her that necklace first." The crowd erupted into laughter once again. The Moon of the Nile was a necklace designed by Roman, the world's top jewelry designer. The starting bid for this necklace was close to $1 billion. There were only a handful of people in the city who had the money to purchase this necklace. Someone like Stephen, who lived off of his wife, would never be able to afford it. Kim didn't want to listen to their gossip anymore. "Let's just leave," she whispered. Many women dreamed of wearing the Moon of the Nile, and Kim was no exception. But the necklace was out of her league, and she could only wonder which lucky woman would end up with the necklace in their possession. Stephen followed Kim out of the building. He didn't miss the envious look on Kim's face when the crowd mentioned the Moon of the Nile. The next morning, Stephen received a call from Jack. He had successfully purchased all of the villas at the highest point in the city. "How much did it cost?" Stephen was asking, not because he cared about the money, but because he wanted to assess Jack's efficiency and capabilities. "Mr. Adams, the total amounted to $5 billion. Ever since Jack had become the point of contact between Stephen and the palace, he felt like they had all the money in the world at their disposal. Stephen was satisfied with Jack's answer. Wealthy families lived in the villas, and it couldn't have been easy to persuade them to move. Considering the high difficulty of his request, using $5 billion to purchase the villas in a single day was a good trade-off. Jack had accomplished an incredible feat. Well done, Jack. After Stephen hung up, Kim called out to him from the living room. Stephen, I need to go out. Come with me. A few minutes later, Stephen and Kim were in a car. Stephen had wanted to take Kim wherever she wanted to go on his bike, but she insisted on getting there by car instead. Stephen glanced at Kim as he drove to the airport. Who are we picking up? Kim looked out the window. Zoe and her husband. They usually don't have time to come to the city, so we should keep them company while they're here. Stephen felt a headache coming on. Zoe was Kim's cousin, and she never stopped talking. Not to mention, Zoe was arrogant, and she took every opportunity to humiliate him. Half an hour later, Kim and Stephen were at the airport. Zoe and her husband squeezed through the crowd to make their way over to them. Kim, it's nice to see you after so long. This is my husband, Henry. Darling, this is my cousin, Kim. Henry's eyes lit up the moment he saw Kim. He didn't know someone this beautiful could exist. Kim greeted Henry politely. It's nice to meet you. This is my... Kim scrambled to come up with an endearing word to call Stephen in the same way Zoe had called her husband darling. This is my hubby, Stephen. Instead of greeting Stephen, Henry turned to Zoe. Darling, is this the son-in-law you're always talking about? Yeah, that's Stephen. Just ignore him. Zoe gave Stephen a disdainful look before continuing her conversation with Kim. Does that piece of trash still not have a job? I really don't know what you were thinking. Why did you marry someone so useless? Kim felt a little embarrassed when Zoe questioned her so directly. Kim, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. You're prettier than me, but you're not as lucky as me. Henry opened up a supermarket chain back home, and he has over $100 million in assets. We didn't come back to Los Angeles just to visit. We came for business. If things work out, Henry might be able to collaborate with some of the top companies here. Henry interjected and acted like a modest gentleman. No, I'm not that impressive. This is just something I have to do as a businessman. Henry looked at Stephen with jealousy in his eyes. Life was truly unfair. How could a good-for-nothing man like Stephen be married to a beautiful woman like Kim? Of course, if Stephen has nothing better to do, he can work at my company. He didn't get far in his education, so he doesn't have the qualifications to work a desk job. He'll have to settle for something like cleaning work.
Will Stephen secretly retaliate against Zoe and Henry's insults and prove his worth? Can Stephen follow through on his promise to give Kim the world, starting with the moon of the Nile?
Hi, I'm Stephen.
Want to know my secrets?
Then download the Pocket FM app and listen to the exciting episodes of Secret Succession now.